Hey everybody, Freddy here with another video. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about a way to save money when you deploy VMs on Azure Cloud services by using Spot Instances. I'm going to be going into the details on what Spot Instances are, how you can find them, how you can deploy them using the portal. But the best part is I'm going to be sharing with you my scripts that I use to find the lowest priced Spot instance in a specific region, and how you can incorporate that in your Terraform script so you can automate the process of creating VMs. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's get to it. Okay, as always, I like to get the terminology out of the way just because this is very important. What we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about what Spot instances are, the features, the eviction policies, and how you're going to handle those, because it doesn't matter how you do it. You can do it from the portal, you can do it from a script, from a Terraform script or a Bicep script. Doesn't matter how you do it. You're always going to have to select these options, how you're going to handle eviction, and what you want to do with your data. We're going to talk about the deployment steps. We're going to go through a way how to do it from the portal and also how to do it from a Terraform script. So Azure Virtual or Spot Virtual Machines, all it is unused capacity on Azure that you can take advantage of at up to 90% discounts compared to pay-as-you-go price. Now, this 90% that you see here, it varies. So in some regions could be 90% for one family. That same family of VMs can be 50% off in another region. So different regions have different percentage of discounts. And this is the reason why when you're going through it and you're going to, and I use a script to go through all the regions and find the lowest, the region with the lowest price for a specific family. Let's say I'm looking for a D2S V4 and I want to find out which region has this instance at the lowest price. And this will return, the script will return the region name, and then I can automate that into my Terraform script, assuming that I can use that VM in another region. Now, there is data that might be transferred from one region to another. You have to take that in consideration as well. Now, if that's the case, then you have to also look at the egress charges from one region to another region. But that's a different conversation. For now, we're going to focus on the idea of using Azure Spot Instances for your workloads. One of the ways that you can find the different VMs that are available, there is this link here, aka.ms VM selector. In this VM selector, it gives you a website right here. And this is just the way that you can find a VM. It says find the VM by workload, or find the VM by OS and software, or find the VM by region. So if you say start here, then it asks you for the type of workload that you're going to use. So anyway, at the end, what it gives you is it gives you a family of VMs that you can use. But that's one thing you can do. Play with it at your leisure just to see if it's something that you can use. If you already know what VM you want to use, then that's much better. You can deploy one single VM as a Spot instance, but you can also set up a virtual machine scale set. Allows you to automatically start another VM. Although when you're talking about Spot instances, you don't want to set up the scale set to automatic, just because if that Spot instance is not available, then you may have problems with your scale set. So there are some VMs that are not supported, such as the small VMs like the B series. Those are not supported. And there's also the promo VMs are also not supported in Spot. Eviction policy. The eviction policy is how you're going to handle once that VM needs to be taken back. So when Azure says, I need this VM back, that's your eviction policy and how you're going to handle that. There's two options. One of them is deallocate. The VM is deallocated, and that means that the VM goes away. But the disk and the network continue to run. So in other words, the data in that disk stays in Azure and you continue to pay. The VM, however, is deallocated, means that it goes away. The only thing to remember here is that even though this VM is deallocated, this still counts towards your quota. So if you have a quota of 100 vCPUs in Azure and you have one deallocated VM, that still counts towards your quota unless it's deleted. If you select delete, then the VM and all associated resources are deleted. The disk goes away, the VM goes away. So at that point, you stop paying for everything. If one of the things that you have to worry about is the eviction of that VM, which means that you're going to be asked to give that VM back. So how can you feel confident about deployments, right? One of the things that you can do is you can look at the eviction rate. Different regions have different eviction rates, and I will show you how this works. And it's based on the past 28 trailing days, which means that you can look at how often this specific VM or this specific VM family is evicted. Some are 20%, some are 5%. So if you have a family that is the eviction rate is 20%, and you can use another family that the eviction rate is 5%, then you should go for the 5% just because it's less likely that you will be evicted based on the historic data. Now, is it 100% true? May not be. Maybe that'll change. However, you gotta go with the data. If the data shows that 20% eviction rate and another family is 5%, I would go for the 5%. Price history is another thing that the portal gives you, or the API for that matter. And that just tells you what is the current price of a spot instance, and also tells you the history of that price of that spot instance. So that's the price history. This gives you a little bit more confidence. Again, the eviction rate is one of the things that you have to pay attention to, not just the price. So some of the benefits of using the spot instances, again, scale compute capacity at a very high discount depending on the region. You pay up to the price you agree in advance. Again, this is the eviction policy. The eviction policy says you can tell it what price you want to pay. What is the maximum amount of money you want to pay for this instance? And I'll show you that in a minute. Deployment flexibility. Again, you can run interruptible workloads, which means workloads that can be interrupted, and you're going to handle that interruption in a certain way. So unique savings, again, if you're running Windows workloads, you can take advantage of what is called the Azure Hybrid benefit. Azure Hybrid benefit is if you have software assurance, you can bring that license into Azure. And that's a different discussion. That's a licensing discussion, but you can take advantage of that Azure Hybrid benefit with spot instances as well. So now we're going to get into deployment steps, the configuration, and the pricing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the portal. The reason we're going to look at the portal is because the portal gives us a graphical view of what the things that are required. Once we know this, we can take that and throw it into an automated Terraform script, which is what we will do as well. Okay, now that we are in the portal, we're going to start by looking at the way that you can set up an Azure Spot instance. So when we go into virtual machines, we can tell it to create an instance. The way that you set up Azure Spot is right here. If you can see this option here, you see how it says run with Azure Spot discount. You click on that, and here is the eviction type that we talked about in the presentation. Capacity only. Your virtual machine will be evicted when the Azure excess capacity disappears. Again, what this means is that you're willing to pay up to the pay-as-you-go price, and depending on what the price is at the moment, so you're going to pay for the spot pricing. If you pay attention here, when I click on the Azure Spot, right now it says, if I'm looking at the DS1 V2, 1 vCPU, it says that it's $41.61 per month. When I click on run an Azure Spot, it tells me that it's going to be at 0.00573 cents per hour. Let's look at the price times 730 hours in a month. We're looking at $4.18 per month for that same instance using Spot instances. Now that's capacity. What this means is that if I set this up, I say I'm willing to pay up to pay-as-you-go price, so I'm not going to get evicted by price if the price goes over this price here. It just means I'm willing to pay up to pay-as-you-go price. Here it says price or capacity. If you set this up, then that means that you're willing to pay up to a specific price. If I click here, it tells me, it asks me, what do you want? What is that cost? What is the maximum amount of money that you're willing to pay? So if the price of the Spot instance changes, it will not get evicted up to this price. That's the difference here. So I can say capacity just means that the only way I'm going to get evicted is if the capacity is required. I'm not going to get evicted based on price. If I get evicted, what am I going to do with my data or my VM? Am I going to stop and deallocate? Remember we talked about this. Deallocate just means that the VM goes away. Storage doesn't go away. Or I'm going to delete. I'm going to set it to delete. And then I'm going to say maximum price you want to pay per hour is 0.057. Let's look at that for a minute. 0.057 times 730 hours in a month, $41.61. So as you can see, it automatically sets the price to the retail price. That's because I selected capacity only. How do I know the price of the Spot instance in different regions? Well, I have this website here that I can go to, which is going to be in the link down below. If I go here, I can select what instance do I want. Here I can say CentOS or Linux, category, general purpose, VM series, any specific series that I want, the region that I want, and I can say display on an hourly basis, and I can just pretty much set that up at this point. The B is not available in Spot. That's the reason why you see here under the Spot there is blank, there's nothing. AV2 standard, here it tells you that this AV2 standard in East US is at a 55% discount. If I change this to Central US, that same instance is at an 89% savings. If I change this to West US 3, it's at 89 as well. Now, how do you choose which one? What I didn't show you yet is this. If you notice back to the portal, in the portal when you're selecting this VM, there's an option here. It says view pricing history and compare prices in nearby regions. If you click on this, what it does is it gives you this information here. It says in West US 3, the eviction rate is 0 to 5% on what I selected. And again, the eviction rate is very important because if in West US 3, the eviction rate is 0 to 5%, and in West US, let's say is 20%, you want to go with West US 3, just because it's less likely that you're going to be evicted. Okay, now that we have seen how you do it from the portal, now we're going to jump into the script model. By the way, this information that you see here on the screen is going to be available on my GitHub. So I'm going to put a link in the description down below so you can go and grab the scripts, you can copy paste, and you can change them as you need to. But what I'm going to show you here is this one right here. And this one, what it does is just goes to the API. As you can see, prices.azure.com, API, retail prices. And it's looking for what is called the meter name, and I'll show you that in a minute, which is equals to Spot. So it's actually looking for Spot instances. Anything that has the name Spot is a SKU that is a Spot instance. So Spot, and what I'm using here is I'm piping this to JQ. I'm going to be running this from a Mac. So if you have a Mac and you want to follow along or you want to use this, you have to install JQ. So you can do homebrew and install JQ. Once you do that, what this does is just it's just taking the items that are returned and it's just arranging them in a way that is easier to understand. If you click on that link, what it gives you is it gives you all the different families, and it gives you pretty much everything. It gives you the region name, but it's very difficult to read. So again, you can execute this from a browser. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be executing it from a command prompt. And again, I already installed JQ. So let's see, here you go. I already copied that here. So curl is exactly the same what you saw and the OneNote. And when I do enter, what it does is it goes out and it returns this information. This information is, again, every family that has a Spot instance. It gives me the price. So right here in this section right here is a standard D16DS V5 Spot and the price, which is 0.2682 blah 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 blah. Again, it's a D16DS V5 Spot, and it tells me which region. In this case is JA West or Japan West. So what other options? US West. So all regions are here, and the price in every single region for this for pretty much all families. It does not execute anything in specific. It just returns everything. You can do whatever you want with this information. But what I want to do is I want to say, okay, I want to know if I specify any specific family, the F16S Spot, for example. I want to know which region has the lowest price for this specific family. So this is one of the interesting questions for me, right? So I want to know which region has the lowest price. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this script here. And again, all this information is on my GitHub, so you can go in and you can just copy paste and change it as you need. So the first thing it's going to do, as you can see here, this one is I'm specifying a specific family. So I'm looking for a standard D16DS V5, and what I'm doing here is I'm structuring the URL. So in this case, the URL is going to be equals to that SKU name that I just created. I'm going to curl that URL. So I'm going to be querying the API, and I'm going to be taking the unit price of that specific family that I'm looking for. In this case, the standard DS V5. And then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the region with the lowest price for that specific family. So let's go ahead and execute this step by step. So I execute this. All right, that's one. Then I execute the following. Control V. So now it just goes out there and it queries the API. It's going to take a little bit of time. And right now, what it does is it sets up a variable called min price. So if I do echo min price, it's telling me what the minimum price is for that specific family. I still don't know which region has that price. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the next command. Again, you can put this in a script. I'm going to paste it here. And when I paste it, what it's going to do is just going to go in and check. And it's telling me that the region with the lowest priced standard D16 DSV5, it's West US 3. Now, if I'm looking to run a workload using this instance family, then I'm better off using US West 3. Now, one of the things that I need to consider is not only the price, but I also need to check the eviction rate. So one of the ways that I can check the eviction rate is you go to the portal, you click on Resource Graph Explorer. What the Resource Graph Explorer allows you to do is it allows you to query Azure in a way that it's much faster than clicking through those links here. And again, I'm going to paste this, or I'm going to make this available on the GitHub, so you can just copy, and you can just copy this. And what this is going to do is going to query Azure. So Spot Resources, where type is eviction rate, location, where location is, I'm checking for West US 3 and West US. I can say West US 3 only, but I can select West US 3. And then what it does is it just gives me the eviction rate based on the SKU name. So let's see if it runs. There you go. Again, what this does is it tells me the eviction rate. So as you can see here, this gives me all families. So you can see that some of them are at 20%, like the standard ND96 AMSR A100. Those have an eviction rate of greater than 20%, typically because those are GPU enabled systems. So those are going to be in high demand. So the eviction rate is pretty high. But if you have other ones that are not, again, the NC6, again, those have 20% or higher. Some are 0 to 5. Again, those are the ones that I would recommend to choose. With this script, again, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the region with the lowest price specific to a family. Then it returns, as you saw, it returns you, for example, in this case, West US 3. That was the return value that it came back. Now, if you're going to use that in a Terraform script, what you can do is you can take that and just plot it into the Terraform. And let me show you how. So this is not a Terraform video, so I'm not going to go into the details about the Terraform. What I'm showing you here is when I created Terraform, and again, this is a very simple Terraform script. In my main.tf, I created a place called locals, and I have a resource group name where I specify the resource group where my resources are going to go into. And I also specify a location that becomes my variable that I'm going to use in my script. And again, I just set it up. In this case, I set it up manually to West US 3, but you can set it up as a variable so that, you know, the output of that other script becomes this variable here. And when you start creating resources, then you can see that in this case, the location, it becomes location equals local.location. It takes whatever value you put in there. You only have to specify the place or the location once, and then it picks it up from there in your Terraform. And this is how I would use this in a Terraform. I can automate this process. The only thing I need to change in Terraform is I need to give it a priority. Again, remember when I created the spot instance in the portal, I had to specify if it was going to be a spot. In Terraform, I need to specify the priority, which is going to be spot, and then I can specify my eviction, what I'm going to do if I need to be evicted. Remember, there were two, deallocate or delete. I need to specify that as well in my Terraform. And that's it. Those are all the three things that I need to change. The location, I need to specify the priority, and I need to specify the eviction type that I'm going to use. Spot instances can be a game changer for organizations, for businesses. It does take a little bit of work to go through it, understand the process, understand how you can find the one with the lowest price, which region has the lowest eviction rate, and that way you can create your workload in a region that is not going to get evicted too often. Again, it's just a matter of finding that information, and then you can go ahead and set it up so it using scripts like Terraform, you can automate this process of creating resources. I hope you got something out of this video. If I forgot something or you would like to see something, please leave it in the comments down below. I love to see your comments. I love to hear that it was beneficial to you or not. Give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. It would be nice to increase my audience. And thank you so much for your time, and I will see you on the next one.